Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this year's first SLT Assembly. I think what makes this assembly so special is that it's our first time here in the theater all together for a DAEIJ monthly focus. You may or may not be aware of what our first monthly focus is. We mentioned it at the Back to School Assembly. However, if you're still not sure, you may have been able to tell from the photos and videos up on the slide. I don't want to mention it just yet, as I would like to invite the ISKL singers up to please sing the national anthem. And with that, I would like everyone to please rise. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, ISKL singers. Okay, sure. All right, so let's just hop straight into it. So if you guys couldn't tell already, today we're going to be talking about Malaysia, and more specifically, host country appreciation, appreciating Malaysia. So why are we here? Why are we talking about host country appreciation, especially, and why is it important for international individuals like us living in Malaysia? Well, the simple answer is that Malaysia is our host, and we are their guest. So it is our responsibility to at least learn a little bit about their culture, their history, that help us inform the experiences and the cultural dynamics that we are going to experience within Malaysia. So I would like to invite Aina to continue.
Just a heads up that this Friday there will be no school as it is Malaysia Day. Malaysia Day. Malaysia Day, also known as Hari Malaysia, is extremely important to us Malaysians as it is the commemoration of the Malaysian Federation. On the 16th of September, we had Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, come together into a singular state to form the Malaysia we know and see today. So,
Speaking of appreciation, let us talk to some Malaysians about what Malaysia means to them. Let's welcome our panelists to the stage. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please do so.
Testing. Hi, everyone. My name is Delphine. I'm from grade 11.
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm also from grade 11. Hi, my name's Amirul. I'm from grade 12.
Thank you for that introduction. So our first question for you is, what does Malaysia mean to you?
Thank you for the question. I'll start. Malaysia to me really is the amalgamation of all the different cultures and traditions that we have here and all the different populations here. And we're not the same, and we do have our flaws, but Malaysia is how we strive to fix those flaws, how we work together in cooperation.
Malaysia to me is home. I've lived here all my life, and it's where I grew up. And I grew up with people of so many different races, Malay, Chinese, Indian friends. And Malaysia is also great food. I'm sure a lot of Malaysians would agree with me that the food here is like, whew. And we get to enjoy delicacies from so many different cultures and not just our own, which I feel is amazing.
Sorry, we'll move on to the next question. How do you connect to the Malaysian community?
Well, my family celebrates Malaysian holidays, and we follow Malaysian Chinese traditions for them. For example, during Chinese New Year, we do what's called yishang, where it's the colorful array of vegetables, and we raise them up really high, and we say Cantonese phrases that mean good luck, good wealth, that kind of things. And so doing these small traditions keeps us close to our Malaysian roots.
For me, it's hard to answer this question personally because I myself am a part of the Malaysian community. But what I'd say is communicate. To feel more connected to the Malaysian community, listening is good. It'd be better if you can learn a few phrases and speak it. You can learn a lot if you communicate with the local community, and not just here in ISKL, but anywhere really in Malaysia.
Yeah, actually, we are going to get to that later. And our last question for you is, how has living in Malaysia contributed to your identity?
I think living in Malaysia has really helped me become an open-minded person because we are exposed to so many different cultures and traditions. We learn to be accepting of everyone's differences, and there's really a beauty in people from different races just coming together and identifying as Malaysians. Even though we're different in some ways, we're all still connected somehow. And I think one of the ways that we are connected is through our language as well, adding on to what Amirul said just now. You could walk into a coffee shop or a kopitiam, as we call it here in Malaysia, and you can hear people ordering food in like 4 different languages, all in the same sentence, and people would still understand you, which I think is incredible.
Like what Delphine said, we experience a lot of different cultures in Malaysia because it's such a diverse place. And so it also influences the languages we speak. Me, for example, I speak 3 languages and a dialect from living in Malaysia, and so it does a lot to shape our identity.
Thank you all. That was really insightful and eye-opening. And I'm sure everyone has learned from this discussion.
So we're now going to take a short intermission. Oh, thank you so much. We're now going to take a short intermission to learn a little bit more about Malaysian culture. This is a short Jom Belajar video, which means let's learn in Bahasa Melayu, presented to you by ISKL's advancement team. Today we're going to learn about eating at a mamak store, so let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Ross. I'm from the advancement department. Now it's 12 o'clock, lunchtime. I'm going to bring you guys to one of my favorite places to eat, which is Mamak. By the way, Mamak means a community of Indian Muslim. That's why we call them Mamak, and they serve good food. Come, jom makan. We already arrived at Pelita Ampang Point. As you can see behind me, they have variety of food to choose from. They are quite famous for their nasi kanda. They have fish, they have chicken, they have vegetables, they have cooked in curry gravy, soya sauce, and many more. I just cannot explain one by one to you guys. You guys have to experience this thing by yourself. Saya nak lauk apa? Udang. Sotong lah. Pedas lah. Kentang. Hello Panthers. I'm having nasi kanda. As you can see on my plate, I have one piece of chicken, a little bit of squid, and potato. The chicken here is cooked very spicy sambal. Same goes with the squid, cooked in a spicy gravy, and slices potato and with rice. And I'm having my nasi kanda with teh ice. Selamat menjamu selera, which means enjoy your meal.
Mamak stalls usually have a goreng-goreng menu, fried fresh from the wok, which serve dishes such as rice and noodles. The popular dish that's sure to stir up your appetite is the mee goreng. If you're a fan of a Malaysian tea, this is how you order them like a local. Teh ice, tea with sugar, no milk. Teh, which means tea with sweetened condensed milk and sugar. And then, you also have your local favorite, Milo Ice.
Alright Panthers, to end the lunch with a glass of teh tarik. Teh with condensed milk. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoy watching this video on the Jom Belajar session. Have a lovely day.
Wasn't that interesting? Thank you to Ross and our advancement team for that video. I hope you guys all learned something new. If you haven't already, make sure to go to your local mamak store and definitely try some of the food that they serve, and you'll definitely not regret it. So.
Okay, that was super fun. We'd now like to welcome Miss Ika and Miss Shamin to the stage, who's going to talk to us about their experiences of identity and belonging in Malaysia, which can be quite a nuanced topic considering how diverse Malaysia is. I know that for me personally, as a Malaysian, I tend to struggle with trying to fit in both an international community and the local Malaysian community and trying to find belonging within both. But I'm gonna pass it off to Miss Ika and Miss Shamin. So would you guys like to introduce yourself?
Okay, so I can start first. Thank you guys for having us first and foremost. It's so nice to see all of you. My name is Ika, and on paper, I am a Malay woman, but by way of background, my mom is Chinese, my dad is Malay. Actually, my dad's family came from Indonesia, so technically we're also Indonesian. But officially in Malaysia, I'm Malay, and what that means is I'm also Muslim. So I identify to so many different cultures in Malaysia. So that's a little bit about me.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having us here. My name is Shamin Pillay. I'm pretty similar to Ika as well. My dad is actually Indian Malaysian and my mom is Malay Malaysian, so I'm also mixed and grew up with various exposure to various ethnicities here in Malaysia, so that's a little bit about me as well.
All right, thank you so much for the introduction. So our first question that we think is really important is, tell us about your experience growing up in Malaysia, perhaps what your childhood looked like.
I think when I think about growing up in Malaysia, what comes across to my mind is that it's beautiful and complex at the same time. Beautiful because from a very young age, I was exposed to different cultures, different ethnicities. I had friends who were Chinese, Malay, Indian, some from East Malaysia as well. And I knew that we were different because we looked different, but there was always something grounding us together because we were all Malaysians, and somehow there was this sense of unity between us because we were Malaysians. So it's complex because whenever some things are different, there's always some level of complexity, but at the same time beautiful because of the diversity and the exposure that I had growing up. And I personally, I loved it.
Yeah, for me, I had a little bit of a different upbringing. So from a very young age, I actually moved out of Malaysia. So I lived in Australia, I lived in Switzerland, I lived in Indonesia as well before coming back here. And I was actually a student here at ISKL, and I graduated in 2007. So can you imagine the amount of identity crises I've had over my lifetime? But yeah, I got to experience Malaysia after I went off to university and I came back to work here. And I've been working here ever since. So over a decade now. And so my experience of Malaysia was very different as a child compared to how I got to experience Malaysia as an adult.
Yeah, so I just want to build on from the fact that, you said that you went overseas, you went to Australia, and you came back to Malaysia, and you're also part Indonesian, but like on paper you said you're Malaysian, and for you said I believe your dad was Indian, and then your mom was a Malay woman. I just wanted to ask, how was it like growing up in dual communities? For you, it was cross-cultural, you had two different races, and then I guess for you as well, you had an international community, and back at home, you had to find sense of belonging within being in a Malay community and being in an Indonesian community, and then also being in Malaysia. So how has that impacted your sense of belonging? How did you feel, growing up? And maybe you guys can tell us some of the things that you struggled with.
So that's a very good question. Thank you for that. I think, I loved being mixed because I feel like, I've got to experience the Indian side of my family. I also got to experience the Malay side of my family. And I think it's made me the person that I am today, which is I consider myself to be quite open-minded. However, I would admit there were challenges. There were times when I was growing up, like I didn't quite feel like I belonged wholly to the Indian community, neither did I feel like I belonged wholly to the Malay community. And because I looked different, I went to a Malaysian school, a Malaysian public school, so I looked different. The way I spoke might be a little bit different, so I always felt, to a certain extent, a little bit left out in that sense. But, I learned to embrace it. And as I grew older and my parents guided me, and I continued to feel that sense of belonging. And but I do admit there were times when, there was a bit of an identity crisis, sort of. I didn't quite know where exactly I belonged.
Yeah, and similarly for me, being part, because my mom is from a different culture. My mom is Chinese, right? So we had a whole set of cultures. And traditions and rituals that were attached to my mom's family. And then we had to kind of flip it around and change it up when we went to celebrate Raya with my dad's family. And so, cultural traditions involved how you dress, the language you speak. I remember as a child, I didn't speak a lot of Bahasa, I didn't speak a lot of Malay. So if I go back to my kampung, Johor, right, in Johor, everyone would be speaking Malay, and I could say maybe 5 sentences, and every time I balik kampung, I go back to my village, I would just repeat the same 5 sentences over and over again, and everyone would just have to entertain me. But they knew what questions I was going to ask. So language was a challenge, it was a barrier. Other than that, possibly religion in a sort of way. I identify myself as a Muslim woman. Probably if you look, and Shamin too, probably if you look at us, we don't appear to be that stereotypical Muslim woman, but I think values-wise, that speaks to us in a different way. And I think religion goes deeper than that as well. And just to find belonging and acceptance in those values and those beliefs also impacted our identities, I feel, growing up.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear the different journeys and the different lessons that you've had to learn whilst growing up. And I think another question, what are some pieces of advice that you have for students that are growing up in the Malaysian community or growing up here in Malaysia?
Yeah, I can start. I think advice. There's I'm 30 years old now, and I'm still wrestling with my identity. So if anyone else is sort of in the same boat, don't worry, you're not going to be alone. I think there's something that's really exciting going on, all around the world right now, where there's a recognition that identity isn't a destination. Identity is really a journey, and everyone has a right to go on that journey and to take as long as they need to figure things out without having to feel like you're an imposter doing so, because sometimes I feel like imposter syndrome a little bit in the different cultures that I have to be in and I have to thrive in. And so what's really exciting now is that there is this recognition all around the world how important it is for us to know ourselves and how do we fit in to this ever-evolving world, and how do we figure out who we are in terms of identity. It's a journey, not a destination.
And I really love that, because growing up, I always felt like I needed to fit into a particular box. But then I realized now, I'm also in my 30s, I've realized that actually it's okay for us to be gray. It's okay for our identities to feel like we don't quite 100% fit in that particular box, but we're a multitude of identities, and I think that's fine. And I think it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to fit into any particular box, and just embrace it. I think embrace the difference and embrace, the different cultures, and it's really an exciting journey and experience.
Yeah, thank you both so much again for coming up here and sharing your experiences. I feel like the stuff that you said was just so impactful, and it was so personal, so thank you for sharing that with the whole high school. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut our panel discussion here just due to time constraints, so
thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about Malaysia, we've learned a lot about the culture, identity, and all that jazz, but let's actually talk about how you guys in ISKL can actually start to appreciate Malaysia. And you can start right now just by learning the Bahasa Melayu language. So today we're going to learn a little bit, and you can use this to interact with the Malaysian staff here. The Pretz and Beans baristas, they're all Malaysian. You could speak to them a little bit. Our cafeteria servers, our janitors, people who work in administration, and our advancement department. So let's get started. Shelby, do you want to talk a little bit?
I'll start us off with Selamat Pagi, which means good morning. You can use this when you're walking into school, to greet the staff, to greet the teachers, and it's a very polite way to acknowledge someone's presence.
So in a contextual way, Shelby, do you want to maybe demonstrate how we would greet each other using Selamat Pagi?
Okay, for example, I'm walking to school. Selamat Pagi, Kai.
And I would basically respond, oh, hi, Selamat Pagi, Shelby. So that's how you would use it. Or if you come into school and you see a janitor walking past, you can just, bow a little bit and you can say Selamat Pagi. And now we actually want you guys to try. So maybe can everyone just repeat after us? So it sounds like this. It goes, Selamat Pagi. Now it's your turn. Selamat Pagi. Yeah,
great job.
Amazing.
Give yourself a hand. All right, so the next phrase that we're going to be learning is it's kind of like, how are you? So, apa kabar? You can say it whenever. It literally means, what's the news? But usually it's used as just like a, what's up? How are you? So I would be like, hey Kai, apa kabar?
And I would respond with, Ms. Katja, could you change the slide, please? I would respond with kabar baik. So kabar means news. So Shelby just said, apa kabar? So what's the news? And I would say, the news is good. So Aina, apa kabar?
Kabar baik.
Now you guys, apa kabar?
Very nice.
The next phrase, I think most people should know this phrase, but if you don't, it just means thank you. So when probably a Pretz barista hands you your drink, you should say terima kasih, and just if any polite act, you just say thank you to them. So terima kasih.
And do you guys want to say terima kasih? 3, 2, 1.
Very nice.
Great
Again,
pronunciation.
They're like professionals.
So, in response to terima kasih, you can say sama-sama. So, maybe you want to say terima kasih. Maybe I've helped you with something. I picked up your stuff. So, Aina, go ahead.
Terima kasih.
So, I would say sama-sama, Aina. And sama-sama means same, same. So, it's like likewise. You know, we're the same, same, same. So, I'm going to say terima kasih. I want you guys to say sama-sama. Terima kasih.
Very nice.
All right, so the next word is just a little fun addition. It's not a Malaysian word, it's an English phrase, but in Malaysia, we've adopted it and utilized it in our own culture.
All right, let's quiet down for
Okay.
Kai.
Yeah, let's just quiet down so I can explain this to you guys and how you guys can actually use it. So the word boss does not represent authority in Malaysian culture. The word boss represents mutual respect and fraternity, brotherhood, sisterhood. So in a social context, if you go to a mama stall, like how we watched earlier, the server might come up to you and they might say, apa awak mak? No, sorry. Apa awak nak, boss? And then you can say, oh, saya mau ini, boss. So that's basically him saying, what would you like, boss? And you would say, I would like this, boss. So, or I can go up to Shelby. Shelby's my friend. Shelby, apa khabar, boss?
Kabar baik, boss.
Yeah. Why don't you guys do it with us too? So I'm going to say apa khabar, boss. You guys are going to say kabar baik, boss. Apa khabar, boss?
Nice.
Yeah. You know, you guys have really good pronunciation. I'm like really amazed. All right.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. You will have a continuation of what we have learned today in tomorrow's advisory session.
If you guys can maybe just quiet down just for a second, we're going to...
Now, one last thing. And as the iconic Malaysian cartoon characters, Upin and Ipin would say,
Terima kasih dan jumpa lagi, which means thank you and see you guys next time.